Hello, beautiful human, and welcome back to Inner Space. I'm Danielle YS. I've spent my career at the intersection of space science, technology, and the deeper questions of what it means to be human. And what I found is that the most uncharted frontier isn't out there, it's in here. Inner space is where we go within. Because in that inner terrain, beneath the accumulated layers of who you've been told to be and what you've been told to want, is the work you can't not do. The thread woven through every chapter, the dream that keeps beckoning you on, your soul signature. Inner space is where we recover it. Let's explore. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Inner Space. I am so excited for another Soul Signature Excavation. Today we're here with Isabel Serrano. This is a spotlight time to excavate what your soul is asking you to bring forth in the world today, in this moment, as things are shifting around you, and figure out what comes next for you to actually bring it into the world. Now, the soul signature itself has three pieces of its anatomy. It starts out right in the very core of who we are, that deep sense of why we are here, and that is our essence. Then on the outer ring, that is our embodiment, the way that we show up with our essence in the world that sometimes we have to come back to because we've learned other ways of being and different masks to wear. And then once we have that essence and that embodiment feeling really stable and steady, then we can finally express it in the world. And we need to express it in the world because that's why we're here. I'm excited to go through each of those rings with you and see what wants to rise today. This is an excavation. We don't know what's going to be revealed, and all the things that come through are going to be treasures. Isabel, it is so wonderful to be with you. You and I have known each other for probably 3 years now, supporting each other in our businesses, and we've both gone through so many evolutions. I know that right now you're in your own incubation of what comes next. So I'd love to hear from you, both where you have been in expressing your message into the world, but also what's alive for you right now? It sounds like there's things shifting.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I'm excited to let you look into my soul a little bit. What a privilege. I am a mindset and transformation coach, and I have been working as a coach for 11 years now. My coaching practice has evolved organically, I would say beautifully, because it's been unfolding very naturally as I have evolved myself and my own spiritual practice has evolved. And so it's shaped itself into something that has been difficult for me to describe, actually. And I think that's where I find that I sometimes get, I don't want to say stuck, but where I feel like it may be difficult sometimes for me to communicate clearly what I am able to offer. I feel like I am a spiritual guide more than anything, but sometimes I think it's difficult to just introduce yourself like that. And it's also like, what is that? What do you mean? So I don't often introduce myself like that. I have a one-on-one coaching program called the Mind Body Reset, basically because this is what I feel helped me transform my own life. So I come from a life in academia where I was mostly mind-driven. I always lived in my mind, very left-brained, very oriented into research, finding, reading, linguistics. I was very disconnected from my body, my heart, myself for many years. When my spiritual search started, I think learning to inhabit my body so that I could be in touch with my heart and my intuition changed everything. So much so that I gave up my academic career and decided to become a coach. When I had this opportunity to experience this transformation for myself, I understood this is what I needed to offer. I understood this is what divinity wanted also from me. because it wasn't my conscious decision. It was something that was designed for me at that point in my life. I just knew it. So I made the shift. It's interesting you use that word. And so I've been shifting, shaping for so many years. Someone who was my very first coaching client, who's a dear friend now and has brought along all her friends. She's been a beautiful part of my coaching experience. She said many years ago that when she describes me to her friends, she says, I don't know what to say, but I say you're like magician, but an angel and a guide. There's so many different things. I guide my clients on coming back to themselves. That's why I call it a mind body reset, but it's really mind body spirit, because we work on alignment, on coming back to you so that you can reconnect with your true self, get to know yourself really well again, right? Because we get lost in the way. So you can reconnect with yourself and just understand yourself so that you feel more self-confident in your life, in making decisions, and you start living more intentionally, making conscious choices. Actually, this morning when I was doing my morning practice, I thought, what would it be like? What is it like for me to make a choice? Because I always talk about choice as the one power we have. Carolyn Mays is one of my teachers, and she always says that. So this is basically what we get to work on. It's not being swayed by life so much, not being influenced by other people's expectations or views of life, but you coming back to you so that you feel grounded in yourself and you know what it is you need for you, what you want for you. And so you move forward into your life with more confidence and more peace. I don't know if I answered your question.
There's so many things that are juicy and rich and deep. And there's two questions that I want to dive into deeper right now. The first question is, I heard you say, when I started on my own spiritual journey, I want to dive into that part of your story and what got you started on that spiritual journey. And then I also heard you say, I feel like I'm a spiritual guide, but I don't really lead with that. I want to dig into that a little bit more because I feel like there's some more meat in there. So which do you feel like answering first?
Let's talk about my own experience because that came first. I grew up Catholic, but I stepped away from the church in my 20s. I felt discontent with the information you would get in church. I wasn't feeling it. I was just searching for other answers.
What were those answers that you were searching for?
I think I wanted to get closer to God, or maybe my own experience of God, not what they were telling me God was. I think that's what it was. I wanted to be able to experience it myself. I don't want to say I lost faith. I don't think that happens. We always have faith in something, When I drifted apart from the church, I wasn't in sync with anything God related. I think it was just time because I wasn't actively looking for anything. And I remember I listened to an interview with Wayne Dyer on TV. And the way he was talking about God, he was talking about the Tao. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I started to resonate with so many things he described. Around the same time, I was reading the book Conversations with God. And I found so much of me in that book. I was like, oh my God, yes, yes. And then I listened to that interview. So I bought one of his books and I started reading. And then I started getting hungry for more. That's when it started. And I was 30 years old. I just couldn't get enough, of this kind of guidance of being able to understand God differently and find that feeling for myself and look at it from the eyes of love as opposed to any other images I may have had before. And then I came in touch with A Course in Miracles about 10 years later. And that was it for me. That's been part of my practice since then. So for about 10 years. And it's given me personally a very solid foundation of the kind of human I want to be and the kind of humanity I want to offer humanity, because it became such a strong foundation for me. That became part of my coaching practice. Not that I coach on A Course in Miracles, but I understood that For me, spirituality is at the basis of every other well being we can experience. Because anytime we feel lost, anxious, depressed, what's missing for me is that connection with something higher, with spirit, with something bigger, or maybe with your own self, but yourself with a capital S, your truth. That part of my life absolutely shaped what I get to offer. And that's how I walk clients back to themselves, reconnecting with that divinity in them. That's what gives you a completely different perspective of life, of yourself, and then of your life for me.
Beautiful. And what is the wording that you use for that? Is it self with a capital S? Is it God? Is it divinity? What do you use the most with your clients and in your own life?
I use God, even though I know it has a lot of connotations, weight, consequences, because religion has caused us to feel like, oh. Sometimes I say divinity because it's divinity, but mostly I say God. I feel comfortable with the word, and I understand it means something different for everybody. So a lot of times I will say love because God is love, and I will say divinity as well.
What to you does God or divinity mean?
It's a force. It's life. I have a painting in front of me with a river, and I'm feeling like it's like water. It's like the source of life, of everything. And it's what unites us, what makes us all one. I see it as a light. I don't usually try to visualize it as something. I don't think that's God. It's not something, but we've made it human, right? We've humanized it so that we can feel like we can relate to it. That's what religion has done. I don't think it has a shape or anything, but sometimes when I do a meditation and connect and see God approaching, I see it as a huge light. So I think that light lives in us. And so that's what I feel for myself, connected to that, and also guide my clients back to that light so that we can identify more with the light than the darkness or the shadow side of us.
And when you guide your clients back to the light, what are the physical sensations or the bodily experiences that they have when they come back into that light and start to realize, oh, that light is within me. It is me.
They feel more grounded, lighter, but more down to earth. I don't know if that makes sense.
Like a tree.
Like you're rooted to the ground, but you feel lighter and more open here and clearer here for sure.
Beautiful. So then that other question that I asked, you saying, I feel like I'm more of a spiritual guide than anything else, but I don't say that up front. Say more about that. Let's dig in.
So for a while, I didn't even talk about God or divinity in my coaching because I thought it would scare people away. But the way life works, it always brings me clients who are close to God or want to get closer to God. Life doesn't fail. So it's not being something I've had to, I'm going to say, publicly expose, that I do this kind of guidance, but it always comes up. Even during our initial interview, they will say something about their spirituality, their religion. Many of them are religious, and I respect every kind of belief, but they have some sort of faith, is what I have found. So I think that's what brings us together. At the beginning, I was a little scared about mentioning God and everything. And then slowly I started noticing this is what people crave and it's part of their life already. Then I started to feel more comfortable. When I talk on social media or things like that, if I create a post or something, I'll mention God. I have no problem now. But I just don't say spiritual guidance because I don't know if I feel like I have the right to say that.
I'm curious about the clients that you work with. When they come to you, do you notice that they have the same kind of relationship that you had with divinity or God when you first started on your path, where there's a religious background, but it's not satisfying them?
It varies. Some of them are satisfied, but I offer them a different view of God and they find it fascinating. They start to look at it differently too, like, oh, there's more to this than I have been told. And so they get curious and they open themselves up, which is something I invite them to do from the beginning, like just receive. And then later on, you can decide if you want to keep this or get rid of it if it doesn't work for you, but be open to receive, because we have to be able to allow our mind to be very open and flexible, or as much as possible. So I found that their own experience of God shifts as well. Not all of them, but it happens for many of them.
What is the other perspective that you offer to them?
Seeing God as love, different from what most religions will teach us about God. Seeing God just as love, love and only love, and accepting our perfection as creations of God from the moment we were born, which means we were born worthy and loving and perfect. And so I think creating that kind of relationship with yourself through God, for me, it's what starts to shift things, because it's a different perspective.
It's interesting the way that you phrased that, accepting our perfection. Traditionally, it's acknowledging our perfection or receiving or even seeing our perfection, but accepting is a very different meaning because it requires us to let go of the addiction to not being enough, the patterning that so many of us have. That's a really cool way of saying it. Do you usually say it that way?
Yeah,
What is the reason that you say it that way?
it's something we're born with. It's granted. We just have to accept it. And a lot of times they talk about acceptance as maybe it's not something we like fully or understand, but life is about accepting things as they are, life as it comes, you as you are. And so that means also accepting your truth, which is not what society has taught you or your ego has made you believe, even your parents. So I think that kind of acceptance allows us to relax a little more into our true being.
Such a spicy way of saying it because it's like you said, acceptance isn't necessarily something that we want to do. So it's just such a beautiful way of putting it of accepting our perfection shows that we would rather focus on the imperfections because that's part of human conditioning at this time in the world, in our species. As you were talking about your own story, a phrase came through for me that I want to share with you and see how it lands for you. The phrase was describing your journey and maybe even the journey of your people, hungry for God. What does that bring up for you?
So the reason I went into coaching originally was because of my own weight struggle. I struggled with my weight for more than 20 years since I was a little child. When I was 8, I started to gain weight, and at 11, I started to diet. When I started this spiritual journey, which I know they say we're all in a spiritual journey, but for me, it was more conscious, understanding, oh, this is what I'm searching. And that's what I'm talking about. When I consciously went on this journey, I started to focus on my inner world, which I had never done before because I had never accepted my own body. When I started to shift into self-acceptance and self-love, the weight started to drop naturally. I didn't have to do anything, and the weight didn't come back. That's when I realized this was never about the weight. This was about me. There was something else that was hungry. That was not my body. It was my heart. I was hungry for God. I was hungry for love, but a bigger love, not love from someone else.
What's coming up in your body right now?
It feels great. It feels tingling. It's like enjoying, and it's like coming back again.
Gives me the image of a heartbeat. Boom, boom. So there's another layer of that question of spiritual guide coming through. It started out with, I don't call myself a spiritual guide because people might not get it, and I don't want to push people away from that. And then the deeper layer that came out is, am I allowed to call myself that? I'd love to dive in a little bit deeper to that part if you're willing.
Yeah, I think that's the ego side of me, the old recovering perfectionist in me, thinking, do I have the credentials to call myself a spiritual guide? And then I look at my teachers who are so wise and so deeply connected to God, and I can compare myself to them, which makes sense. They're older, they've had more experience, more time, more opportunities, so I can't really try to compare myself to anybody. So I think it's an inner struggle of, me wanting to do things right and feel like, yes, I have what it takes to do this without knowing what that means really, because who can truly be qualified as a spiritual guide? But I think that's what I am in truth.
Yeah. What does your mind want for qualifications for a spiritual guide?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, like how do you actually get qualified as a spiritual guide? Maybe I'm thinking I need more enlightenment. I need more connection with God. I need more, I don't know, stories to tell about my encounters with God.
And what does your heart seek out when you are looking for a spiritual mentor?
Comfort. I think that's what I found outside religion. I found comfort in my heart. I found a very comforting feeling of love. Love no matter what, love over everything, which I was so desperate to experience for myself.
Love certainly feels like the essence of your soul signature. Very, very, very center. Having known you for so many years, I feel like you embody love so deeply. Every time I see you, you're just radiating love, regardless of what is happening in your own life, and
Mhm.
willing to receive it and be open to it as well.
Yeah, I set an intention to live in devotion to love.
What does that mean for you?
Making choice from a place of love, which helps me be more present so that the choices I'm making, I know are coming from down here and not out of impulse or emotion or automatic behavior. And showing up as God would have me be loving, compassionate, understanding, respectful, kind. Doesn't mean I'm going to be there all the time. It's also part of allowing my humanity to be there, embracing it and integrating it into my life, which was also part of my growth that I have to learn to just be human and be okay with everything, but not letting that be an excuse to show up from those emotions. I don't have to take it out on other people or given many burdens, responsibilities that do not belong to them.
So it sounds like self-responsibility as well as self-trust and self-love,
Right.
self-acceptance. As things are shifting in your life and in the way that you are showing up, what feels like it's calling you to shapeshift, as you were saying at the beginning?
I'm in a bit of a transition in my life. And so I feel like I am coming back to me again, like a moment of, I don't know if it's redesigning or coming home. What I like about this moment where I'm at with everything I've experienced personally, I feel like I can show up being even more present and with more experience. I've been through so many challenges recently that I think it's given me a whole new perspective of life. And so I can show up more fully and authentically for clients because I've had my own growth, part of my lifelong growth, which never stops. So this phase of my life has brought me so much inner recognition into what's going on with me, coming back to me, doing my own practices, meaning what I offer my clients, applying everything to me, for me, with me in my own life, and understanding what's working, what's not working, how am I feeling, being there for me. So I think this is what I want to be able to offer more authentic support, which I don't know what that means realistically or practically.
Does it feel like it still wants to be housed in your mind body reset program, or is there a shift there as well?
I feel like there's more than that. It's more than mind body reset because when you think about mind body reset, what do you think about nervous system?
It almost feels like productivity and efficiency.
Yeah, I think it's bigger than that.
From
Yeah.
our conversation, yeah. Say more about what feels bigger.
Bigger because it's not just mind body.
Mm.
There's the hearts, there's intuition, there's that self trust, there's spirit, there's alignment, there's integration, there's recognition. All of this was already part of my program. I don't know that the container actually reflects that.
In terms of the way that you share it,
Mhm.
what feels like it's missing in there?
I think the spiritual side. So maybe more about the heart, the soul. We haven't talked about the soul. This is soul work, not work. Soul journey.
Soul journey. Ooh, say more words about soul journey and what comes through for you with that.
Yeah, that's it. It's understanding that the path we're on, it's actually for your soul, not for your mind. So when you get to live like that, thinking about your soul journey, what your soul needs, which is not maybe what you think you want, but you know it's what your soul needs, it allows you to experience acceptance a little more. And so I think you show up for life differently, demand less from life, or maybe just demand less from yourself and life in a practical, material way when you understand you're here for something else. That's the soul for me. The soul never gets it wrong. So, leading with that, leading life from the soul for the soul. And then I think that also helps us see each other at a different level, meaning more like one another. If you are a soul and I'm a soul, I have nothing to complain about or blame you for. If you're just a soul and I'm a soul, it's different.
What does that change in an individual's life? And what does that change as a species when we can relate to each other soul to soul?
I think it would create more love and harmony. We could see each other, look at each other from the soul size instead of the body size. And imagine if that could happen, like you could actually see the trajectory of that soul and what it's been through and what it's here for. And we could connect at that level. How different that would be in terms of expectations and demands again and suffering.
I love that trajectory of the soul, forward and backward, where the soul has come from, why it's here, where it's going. Because one of the ways that I show up in difficult relationships or difficult experiences with other people is to get curious. Where is this person actually coming from? It's really easy to take things personally, but it never is personal. Yeah. The soul journey. I love that. How is that landing in your body?
Beautifully.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. And how do you feel like it might land with your people or the people that you want to call in?
I think the name would attract those who are feeling like it's their time to get closer to their soul, or may already have that calling for something deeper.
And on that note, what part of their journey would you want to work with them on?
They've already started asking themselves questions about their own life, their purpose, the way they feel, and what they want. Most of my clients feel like there's something missing inside. From the outside, at the surface level, I have everything, but I'm still not happy, not content. And I think that's part of that. They've lived a life of, I say, a life by consequence, meaning as a consequence of the outer world, instead of living a life by design, designed by their own soul.
I'm just steeping in that, a life designed by their soul, weaving back in what you said earlier that the soul never gets it wrong.
Never gets it wrong.
So the question that comes through is when we're living a life designed by consequence, is that not being led by the soul?
I think it's part of the journey, but the decisions you're making, you're not coming from your mind. Most of the time, those decisions come from fear of failing, fear of being rejected, fear of not making it, fear of being less, fear of never achieving enough. And then when you start connecting at a soul level, that's when we connect with love again, so we can make choices from a place of love.
What does it feel like to make choice from a place of love in your experience?
Yeah, that was my reflection this morning. I think you just feel the body lean forward. It feels easy and it feels certain, even though it's uncertain. That's what it's been like for me. It's like, I know I have to take this step. I have no idea what's on the other side, but I know.
That trust is such a huge piece of it. Takes time and
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that distinction that you made. Inside, it feels certain, even though on the outside, it's totally uncertain and unknown. That I think is such a huge part that we don't pay attention to. Even within the uncertainty, there's so much wisdom and knowledge and knowing inside of ourselves. What is the difference to you between intuition and love, if there is a difference?
Hmm, good question. I don't think there's a difference because your intuition never gets it wrong. It's like love guiding you somewhere. But, the mind interferes. It's like, oh, no, wait, there's no certainty here, right? Because it seems like it's just the heart pulling you somewhere that doesn't feel certain yet.
Especially in a society that is so driven by the mind and does place the mind so highly, we're often told making decisions with our emotions is naive and illogical.
They say something like a foolish heart. How would you call the heart foolish? This is where wisdom lives. But this is how society conditions us.
Are there any phrases like that in Spanish that come to you?
I don't know. I think maybe we say foolish heart too. But I think in general, maybe Latin Americans are more heart driven than Americans. Not in everything because they're more romantic, passionate. Like you feel, you sometimes let that consume you.
And most of your clients are from the United States, right?
Yeah, I rarely coach in Spanish. My clients are in the US because I lived in the US for 12 years. It's where I got certified, went to school, everything. So I started to meet people there and started to work with me. And so I got used to that. And I love it.
For those people listening to this conversation who are feeling that pull to it and that heart leaning forward, but have the conditioning of mind being the highest order thing, what would you say to them, especially the ones who say, oh, but I don't want to give up my mind, or I'm very proud of my mind and my intellect and intelligence?
Absolutely, you don't have to give up your mind and what it tells you. I am actually somebody who's, very intellectual, so I don't give that up. What has shifted and what I may tell that person is just making sure where your decisions are coming from. Is this decision rooted in fear because my mind tells me this is what you have to do or what you should do? As opposed to, is this something I want to do truly? That means checking in with your heart. And that may feel very foreign still, but you can feel it in the body. If it's a yes, a loud yes, you will feel your body relax, expand, open. And if it's an, I don't know, you feel tension. That's just something you can't deny. So if you don't know how to connect with your heart to check if this decision is what's truly calling you from the heart, you can check with your body. So you don't have to give up your mind. It's important, I think, to also check in with your mind and don't be irrational in your decisions, but check in. So this is something you want to do, not just something you think you should do.
I'm just sitting with that, letting that sink in.
Yeah, I think that's what allows us to feel whole and full. And you will notice it too if you make a decision and then you feel like something's missing or you feel empty. And, that was just the mind. You didn't do it wrong. It was just an experience and you can learn from it.
Absolutely. I like to say, make decisions with the heart and plan with the mind.
There you go.
Use them for what they're best at. What else is coming through for you with this conversation?
I'm actually really loving the conversation. I don't usually get to spend time talking about what I do and why I do it. And I am finding this very rich, very enriching because it's allowing me to just feel more about it instead of trying to just come up with something from my mind. So I'm enjoying just feeling and allowing the heart to speak a little more, and it's given me guidance as well as I speak. And I really like this. I am someone who doesn't like to talk about herself very much. I just feel like my ego's too big if I start talking too much about myself, which may also be a wrong perspective. So speaking about this for so long now, I feel like it's unveiling things that are not coming from my mind at all. And a very spontaneous conversation too. It's like I can't plan, I didn't plan for any of this, just all coming up, revealing itself naturally, really enjoying it.
So am I. It's just so wonderful to be here with you.
Same here.
I'm curious if we dig into that a little bit more and just fully relax into the heart. Let the heart speak whatever it needs to and whatever it has been wanting to. What does it want to say?
I felt love yourself. It's just we're so wonderful, already. And we make it so complicated.
Yeah. That's one thing that I'm really appreciating about what you're sharing, because it is so deep and rich and simple. The whole journey of the soul can feel like this big, serious thing that we have to go on and make sure that we're hitting all the points and going to the right places. And yet it all just comes back to love. And that's it.
That's it. Yeah, when you say relax, that's it. If I relax, I don't have to do anything grand, it just is. And I can relax into being, like I said, I think before. I think we need more of that. There's so much pressure for everything. And I am someone who can put a lot of pressure on herself. It's a daily practice for me to come back to this.
There are multiple questions. I'm feeling into which one wants to be asked first. If we sink back into that relaxing into the heart, what is it that heart is yearning to bring forth in the world, to express in the world? Let what just moved through you move. We'll meet you in the next part. Dear explorer, thank you for journeying into inner space today. If something in this conversation stirred something in you, like a long forgotten song from childhood, let that be data, because your body knows before your mind does. Subscribe to Inner Space to keep exploring, and if someone came to mind while you were listening, share this episode with them, because we're not meant to navigate these depths alone. I'm Danielle YS, signing off with love from the edge of the unknown.